Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Igor Luzhansky.
And my name is Konstantin Lapchevsky.
And we are today passionate to present the work of Ukrainian Catholic University students, which is dedicated to finding a right nutrition strategy for poor people in Ukraine. In this presentation, we are going to tell you first of all about the context of the problem that we are going to address. Then we are going to articulate the problem itself. Then Konstantin will present a mathematical model which addresses the problem. Then we'll talk about the analysis and outcomes of the solutions that we have. And then we will discuss the next steps which we are going to do after the research. So let's start with the context. According to United Nations research, 60% of Ukrainian population lives in poverty. Among of them, 10 to 12% live below the poverty level, which is about 4 million people of Ukrainian population, which is quite big. On the one side, Ukrainian government provides a lot of incentives, and you can see on the slide, we have a minimal pension, we have a minimum salary, we have average salary. Seems like everything should be working, but unfortunately, those incentives are so low in Ukraine, and there are a lot of amount of people which are getting those incentives. For example, the average pension is received by 8 million people of population in Ukraine, and it is quite a small amount of money for such a high amount of people. You may think and say, look, why don't we just increase the social standards in Ukraine? But unfortunately, that's not the case. On the one side, we have a war with Russia. On the other side, we have such a huge external debt which do not let us to lift the social standards. We believe that the problem is quite important and quite urgent and relevant in the current situation. In case it not be addressed, in the recent times, we can already see the negative impact, like a reduction of the life duration, huge immigration rates from Ukraine, and increase of social tension. That's the reason we believe that something has to be addressed, and we should do something with that one. So we have asked ourselves as data scientist students what we could do with that one. We could not change everything, but we could, for example, try to find a right nutrition balance that could help poor people to live better lives.
Obviously, our main aim here is to determine product basket that simultaneously cheap enough for people to afford it and nutritious enough to actually satisfy their needs. For current presentation purposes, we will consider only locally available products. After all, we are doing it for Ukraine in the first place. And secondly, we will assume nutrition needs of average adult male. Beyond that, when we say, okay, we need something that satisfies these nutrition needs, by saying satisfies, we mean that it simultaneously gives more than recommended amount of these nutrition and less than maximum safe amount to consume this. As for the model parameters, we go not for all variety of elements, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, etc., but only for 32 of them. And for the stack of products, we go for 51 position. Easy to see that without actual data, we won't be able to go any further, so we looked for it. We combined internal and external data sources. As for internal, it is Ukrainian government databases for prices on these commonly used products. As for external sources, it's American database for proportion of distinct nutritions in given products. And finally, the model. We tried out several different approaches like gradient descent and so on, but ended up with a simplex model, which seems to be the most appropriate here. Basically, our task can be formulated as the linear programming and linear optimization problem, where our objective function is the total cost of the product basket, which you can see as the first line. As the second block, you see stated constraints that we should satisfy recommended requirements on nutrition and do not exceed the maximum ones. And the third line basically states that the person cannot consume negative amount of the product. So what we get out of it? First, as we've seen in the most number of product baskets that we obtained, is that some sort of products appear in it quite often, which I think is quite expectable. The second, we looked up how much actually it weighs. Is it possible for a person actually to consume it? Because you won't be able to eat something in measure of 5-6 kilograms, even if it says that it would be very good for you. Beyond that, we looked deeply in results of our model and seen that our general drawback is that there are very few cheap, basically no cheap products on rare elements like omega-3, vitamin D. And this fact actually drags our price of the basket higher. If it's possible to find a suitable substitution for them, we can drop our price rate even lower than that we will present shortly. And another major drawback is that for most of the product baskets, variety of the products still fairly low and no meat there. And after all, even considering all these major drawbacks, we still were able to find out at least one fairly good product baskets that we would like to present to you now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kostya. We managed to find a basket. That's a great job. I'm very excited about it. I want to draw your attention to the higher figure over there. It's the cost of this basket, which is 1.1 United States dollar per day, which still remains a very high proportion of the income that low people, which are getting support and incentives from the government, receive. So it still remains quite a big challenge in Ukraine to feed those people, even with such optimized, not variable, no meat basket that we recommend by our model. But still we believe that this basket is good enough to feed people with low income. We've been thinking what we can do further as the next steps. First of all, we've been looking at the model, and model could be easily extended for different locations, for people with different nutrition needs and with different nutrition limitations. Moreover, we can build a software which absorbs the prices in real time and thus regenerates the model in real time in order to address the price changes and different availability of seasonal products, which could enrich and enhance our model. Before the model itself, it was important for us not only just to do a scientific research, but to do a real impact in Ukraine. So we are about to communicate the result of the research and a particular basket to the charity organization which take care about the poor people, so they could adjust their strategies and the way the basket for poor people is set up and provided. And the last point, we are going to create a public resource in order to communicate the result of our research with a wider audience. It was a big pleasure to work, with a great team, and you can see 5 smiling faces, not only me and Konstantin. So it was a really great team and it was a really great excitement to work together. Thank you a lot for your attention, and I hope that we did at least a small impact both in Ukraine and out of